I just so wish that the whole film could have been as awesome as the final segment. Tarantino, this was 1 year after Pulp Fiction, and even though Pulp Fiction had been huge, this was still very early in his career, and the premise behind Four Rooms is an interesting experiment that I feel that just about any director would want to try being a part of. Although, as shown here, it didn't work out so well. Tarantino's story is called The Man from Hollywood, and it's about a big, self-absorbed director having a New Year's Eve party with some actor friends over. And this director, whose name is Chester Rush, guess who plays him? Quentin Tarantino. Even though it's a short segment, this is technically the only Tarantino film project where he's the lead. He always casts himself in small or supporting roles in his movies, but here he plays the lead character, and Tarantino gets a lot of shit for his acting, and I think it's undeserved. While he doesn't have a ton of range, he plays the type of characters that he plays very well, which are sleazy criminals, or just assholes, and some people would say he's playing himself, no disrespect, QT. But he does come off as a bit aggressive at times, a little jerkish, and definitely very self-absorbed. And his character in Four Rooms, some might say, is just him playing himself, although even though he does have some similar qualities, the Chester Rush character is a bit more sociable than Tarantino I've ever seen Tarantino be in any interview or interaction from making of videos. And the Chester character calls Ted up to the penthouse suite. Ted arrives and, very anxious, just wanting this night to end, knocks on the door saying, "Room service." And in a very bizarre moment, the person who answers the door is Angela, the tied up and gagged wife from the second story, The Wrong Man. Played again by Jennifer Beals. And when she appears, Ted has the reaction we all have. We're like, what the fuck is she doing here? And she gives this half-assed excuse about the psychotic husband having passed out, and she got bored and decided to go check out the pool, which led to her meeting Chester and being invited to his party. And it's a very weird choice to make, because other than Ted, no other character has appeared in any other of the stories, at least physically. And she doesn't serve a ton of purpose to the plot, other than to be the spunky chick who adds some good dry one-liners. But it's Tarantino, and nothing here feels unnecessary. Tarantino's story is 21 minutes, and within that time, he's able to build up a ton of fucking suspense. I mentioned how Robert Rodriguez was able to build up some good tension and a sense of uneasiness. Tarantino takes that and just ups it 10 fucking times. And while they're both very good directors, I think Tarantino does it a lot better, because I love Robert Rodriguez, but the fact is he is primarily an action director, making movies that have the more blockbuster feel to them, while Tarantino, although he does make occasional blockbuster, he makes the type of movies that are Oscar material. And the Man from Hollywood segment is Quentin Tarantino doing what he does best, having characters who are either villains or unlikable, interacting and just chatting it up, talking about movies or pop culture or just life, how their lives are. And the dialogue here is just so flowing, just so perfect. And once again, QT is able to have them talk about stuff that ties in no way to the main story, and it just is so engaging and just pulls you in. You just feel hooked to every fucking word. And once again, the story, which is only 21 minutes, has also Tarantino's trademark of including a ton of profanity. And in this 21 minutes, guess how many times the word fuck or some variation is dropped? 193 times. Awesome, and what can you say, bud? That's our Quentin. And Tarantino himself gives a pretty excellent performance, just adds a lot of personality traits to this character, and while I do see a lot of QT in this character, something I just couldn't help but notice is I almost see a little bit of myself when watching this character played by Tarantino. I'm not really like this character in real life. I'm not a big-time director. I'm not rich, but the attitude that he has with the other characters kind of reminds me of the way I am with some people when I interact with them. So it was a little funny, a little jarring. And his character, Chester Rush, the first scene that he's in, he takes the conversation the route of talking about the Jerry Lewis movie The Bellboy, and how he admires Jerry Lewis for being able to deliver his performance without saying a single word, and then talks about how Jerry Lewis is unappreciated and how people will only acknowledge him when he's dead, which is, now, today, a load of shit. And it's funny because he may die after I record this, but as of today, Jerry Lewis is still alive. So, just funny seeing that. And the other actors in this, aside from Quentin Tarantino, Tim Roth, and Jennifer Beals, are Paul Calderon, who had previously been in Pulp Fiction. Here he plays I think maybe an actor or just a friend of Chester named Norman. And the last actor to be in The Man from Hollywood, and once again, surprising, just Tarantino got some pretty good names to be in his story. The last actor is Bruce Willis. Yeah. And Bruce Willis, like Marissa Tomei, he's almost unrecognizable here. He's got hair. This is old. He's got this real thin goatee all around. And he plays a guy named Leo, who I can't tell what his connection to Chester is. But based on the getup and how rich he looks, I get a producer vibe from him. And Willis is actually uncredited in this role in Four Rooms, which is weird because he's a major supporting character for the final story. And the reason he's uncredited, for those who are curious, is Willis acted in Four Rooms for free. He didn't take a salary, he just did it as a favor to Quentin, because I guess he really liked working on Pulp Fiction. Who wouldn't? And SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, apparently appearing in a movie for free is a violation of their rules. And SAG agreed not to sue Willis as long as he was not credited in the film. Douchebags. And And the story here is that Ted has brought up a bunch of random items for Chester and his friends. And once again, showing how Tim Roth is just really going too overboard here. The scene where he lists off all the items he brought is very cringy, all because of him. But other than that scene, Tim Roth is actually surprisingly solid throughout the Man from Hollywood segment. And the items he brought were a ball of twine, 3 nails, a donut, which Chester says is for him, pops in his mouth, and then washes down by drinking straight from a bottle of champagne. And a club sandwich, which Jennifer Beals wants. And a hatchet, which Chester says, a hatchet as sharp as the devil himself. And Norman tests it out by just lightly grazing his thumb across it and says, "That's a sharp motherfucker." And the whole story, it starts out not really in the intention of building up suspense, but it becomes clear that they want all this stuff for a reason, and they're all pretty inebriated to the point where they're not acting like they have shady intentions, which in a way makes it all the more uneasy, the sense of uneasiness throughout this story. And before I get into the spoiler area, the rest of the segment is pretty much going to be complete spoilers. Just want to mention this funny moment where Chester is giving Ted some of his, he calls it Cristal, which I guess is a fancy champagne. I'm not a champagne expert. And while drinking from his own glass, Chester is like, "Did you put a cork on this?" And then he just goes nuts saying, "It's fucking dry. There's not a goddamn bubble left in the fucking thing." And he acts like a spoiled little rich brat, just dumping the he dumps the champagne on the carpet. And yeah, you know these people have to have a lot of money if they can do all this stuff without being fucking worried. And he opens a new bottle of Cristal and drinks it right from the bottle, which gives him a mouthful of foam, which he immediately spits and lets dribble out of his mouth. It's just funny seeing a grown man do something so juvenile and irresponsible. And after all the Cristal and movie talk and Bruce Willis talking on the phone with his movie wife and she getting pissed at him, he flips over a table yelling, "The fuck, man? What the fuck's going on? This fucking bitch, can't believe this. I treat this bitch like a queen and then she pulls this shit on me." And then he sees all the items, he's like, "The fuck is all this?" And seeing the hatchet, a cutting board, and a bucket of ice, he's like, "Get the fuck out of here. Chester, Norman, talk to me. You really doing this?" And just like that, his whole mood shifts from being upset and on the verge of tears to being, "Oh yeah, my dick is hard just thinking about it." And then we find out exactly what all these items were for. Turns out these guys have become so fucking drunk that they are gonna do something really fucking stupid, which they admit is fucking stupid. But they're drunks and it's New Year's Eve, so they're like, "Ooh, what the hell?" And what they are going to do is they are going to reenact the bet that happened between Steve McQueen and Peter Lorre from an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents called The Man from the South. And The Man from Hollywood is pretty much both an homage and a loose remake of this episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And they tell Ted that they were watching the show, and this particular episode, The Man from the South, which they all call The Man from Rio for some reason. Probably because they're drunk. And Bruce Willis says, "You ever seen The Man from Rio?" Ted's like, then he's like, "Hey, if you saw it, you remembered it." Anyway, and they explain that the plot is that Steve McQueen's a broke gambler, and Peter Lorre, who was always a very good creepy actor, plays a disturbed, sadistic man who apparently likes to collect severed fingers. Alfred Hitchcock made it work. And in this episode, Lorre bets McQueen that if McQueen can light his cigarette lighter 10 times in a row, Lorre will give him the keys to his new convertible. But if Steve McQueen couldn't light his lighter 10 times in a row, Lorre gets to cut off his pinky finger. And basically all these people who I guess just feel like they want to show that they are ballsy enough to actually attempt this, inspired by this episode, they decide they're going to try the bet for real. And this could be seen as a good R-rated example of don't imitate what you see on TV. Because, yeah, Norman is going to wager his pinky, and Chester is going to wager his car, which is the same car based on a photo they show of it. It's the same car that John Travolta drove in Pulp Fiction. And the reason they are telling Ted all this is they're very drunk and they're not sure they could go through with it. They want Ted to be the person who cuts off Norman's pinky should his lighter not light 10 times in a row. It's a nutty segment. It's just crazy at that point. Because, you get stupid rich people deciding to do something stupid just because they can. And Norman just thinks his lighter will light each time. He feels like there's no reason to be worried. And he's going to get himself a good car. And Ted, who's been listening, and you can see the fear in his face because he's wondering where this is all going. And you feel it with him, and you can tell he's freaked out, and his immediate reaction is, after hearing everything they gotta say and what they're asking of him, he's like, "I gotta get out of here!" And he gets up and tries to run away. And then Chester calls out, "Money!" And Ted stops, going back to how he was bribed into watching the kids and the misbehaviors. Hesitates to leave, but then is like, "I am not cutting off Norman's pinky finger." And Chester tells him, "It doesn't matter if you don't want to, but please, come back here for just 1 minute." And tells him that if he stays for just 1 minute, he will get $100. He doesn't even have to go through with cutting off a finger. He'll get $100 if he just comes back and listens to what Chester has to say for 1 minute. And Ted is like, "So, look at this straight. I come back there, I listen to what you guys say, and then I can leave, no hard feelings." After a second of thinking, he's like, "Alright." And when I explained this scene to my psychologist, she really found it interesting, saying that if you can convince someone to come back to do something for a small amount, like get them to say yes, and possibly you could get them to say yes to the bigger thing. she thought it was a very interesting psychological moment. And so Ted comes to the bar stand where they're all at, and he sits down on a stool, and Chester tells Leo to count the seconds to tell him when his minute is up. So Chester, being all slick and almost snake charm-like, lays down the $100 bill that he'll give Ted if he stays the full minute. And then he starts laying down a stack of $100 bills, saying this is what he could get if he helps them out. And it's a very well done scene. Tarantino plays a good persuader, and after it's over, he asks Ted, "So what's it gonna be?" And Ted, who's been staring, silently listening to him, while the camera slowly zooms in on Ted, building good suspense, Ted answers, "Okay." And everybody just cheers going, "Yeah!" And "Yeah!" And then Ted's like, "Right here! Right now! Before I change my mind!" And they quickly set it up. Norman puts his pinky on the cutting board, and Ted takes the cleaver, holds it up, and they're all ready. And by the way, the cinematography in The Man from Hollywood, which is done by Andrzej Sekula, Andrzej, and, or maybe it's an I, maybe I misspelled anyway, last name is Sekula. The cinematography in The Man from Hollywood is just fucking fantastic. It has Tarantino's trademark of having long, ongoing shots where, and to be honest, like, there are a lot of cuts, especially in the end, but for the first half of 4 rooms, the shots go on so long that I kind of forget that this isn't that they're continuous, ongoing shots, and I think some of these shots go on for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, which is really, really impressive. And we get this great overhead shot that slowly pans down to close to Norman holding his lighter, and Chester makes sure everyone's ready. They all go ready, and Chester, with perfect pitch silence, says, "Begin." And Norman makes the first flick, and it doesn't light. And without a second's hesitation, Ted just cuts off Norman's finger, and immediately he's like, "Ah! Oh, my finger! My fucking finger! Oh, he cut off my fucking finger!" And while he's screaming in agony like a pussy, Ted immediately swipes the cash, gets up, and heads to the elevator, doing that annoying swishy walk that really aggravates me. But he walks out after a horrible night, just feeling good and coming out on top a little. And while I don't like the Ted character or Tim Roth's performance as him, I gotta admit, this is kind of a satisfying end. And it doesn't even end there. The ending, the credits start to roll while the movie's still playing out. Ted going to the elevator, going down, and Norman crying in agony about his finger being gone, going, "Oh, why'd you let me do this? You fucking fuck! Oh!" And they rush to the elevator, try and get him to the hospital to get fixed. And while they're running, they drop the bucket of ice, causing it everywhere and possibly losing the finger. And as they get to the elevator, Beale's character, apparently done with being in Tarantino's segment, it says, I'm gonna go back to my room, and she just leaves. Still being a shallow, vapid bitch, but being fun. And that's Tarantino's story. It is by far the best story in this clusterfuck of an anthology film. And it just feels perfect and a little amazing. It's only 21 minutes, but it is a Tarantino film. Kinda. Ish. And it feels like any other one of his movies, just at a TV episode length. And he really owned it. He made it work. Extremely well written. Fabulously directed. So perfectly filmed and edited. The editor was the late Sally Menke, who edited all of Tarantino's films up until her death. And the final moment as the credits roll is hilarious. I love it. And I think that's pretty much it. Tarantino's story is the best one, and with the exception of a few moments of Tim Roth's overacting, I give the final story a 9.8 out of 10. So, that's my review of Four Rooms from 1995. I hate having my opinion match with just about every review of it that's ever been made. But yeah, the first two stories are fucking terrible. Some of the worst shit you will see, particularly in the second story. Second half, just good and then great. Robert Rodriguez's story is a ton of goofy fun. Tarantino's story is hilarious, but also builds up terrific suspense. Just extremely well made, and would I recommend Four Rooms? Yes, I would. I cannot think of any reason to like the first two stories, but tastes vary, and if you can enjoy the first two stories unironically, good for you. You can like what you want. Would I watch it again? Well, after this review, I don't think I'll ever watch the first two stories again unless I'm showing the movie to somebody. And I feel like more talented directors could have made this whole thing a 100% fun ride. But not everything can work out. And two things before I end this review. These people on the cover, okay, this is Ted and this is Antonio Banderas. This is Madonna, which, by the way, this is not what she looks like in the film. I don't get it. I'm pretty sure that's Madonna. I don't fucking know. This is a weird cover. But this person, I don't think, this character is not in the fucking movie. I don't know who this is. Who made this fucking DVD cover? I don't know who the fuck this bitch is. But what you gonna do with cheap DVD releases? Anyway, last thing I really want to bring up is I was watching a midnight screening with Brad Jones and Dave Gobble. It may have been the Pulp Fiction midnight screening, which is available on the Cinema Snob Unerotic Fantasies DVD. And I think Brad talked about not liking Death Proof, Tarantino's film segment from Grindhouse, and saying he liked the last 20 minutes, but he didn't like the whole film, and he considers Four Rooms the better Tarantino film, the more underappreciated Tarantino film. And while Tarantino's segment in Four Rooms is extremely good, I don't feel like you can call Four Rooms a Tarantino film, because Tarantino's segment is only the last 20 minutes of Four Rooms. Now, I'm not challenging Brad's opinion, I'm just wondering for anyone who thinks this, if the last 20 minutes of Four Rooms by Tarantino, and that's only the only part of Four Rooms that he is a part of, if that's enough to redeem that film in some people's eyes, then why wasn't the last 20 minutes of Death Proof enough to redeem that for those who didn't like it? I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion completely. I'm not saying you can't have those thoughts. I'm just curious how 20 minutes of a movie that is not full-on Tarantino can be considered better than Death Proof, which is full 100% Tarantino. And I do love Death Proof. I think it is very good. And maybe I'm just getting emotional about this because I love Death Proof, but it's just a curious thing. 20 minutes of one movie that only has a small bit of Tarantino is ranked better than the one that is full on, and in the last 20 minutes of that film people seem to like. Maybe I'm just rambling, maybe I'm not thinking clearly, I am a bit inebriated, but that was just a curious thing that made me think and wonder. Either way, I love Tarantino's story here. That's the last time I'm going to say it, and I recommend Four Rooms just to see what it's like, and you may like it, you may hate it, you may have mixed feelings, but that's the way it is. So, that's it. This is my final movie review of 2016, and this has been a very mixed year for me, as well as many people. I accomplished a lot this year, made a short film, got a lot of people to work with me, was able to do 3 shows a week at one point, and really getting someplace, I think. Maybe I'm not, maybe I just feel good in the moment. It's hard to really understand how well you're doing, or if you're even doing well at all, I guess. Whether it be all the great celebrities dying, all the great actors, filmmakers dying this year more than usual, whether it be the shitstorm that was the 2016 presidential election. It's been a mixed year, and for myself, I can say I definitely feel like I accomplished something, and even if I don't fully embrace it, because I have a hard time doing that, I do know I did more this year than last year, and this is it. I'm gonna take a break after this review for maybe a few months, and I'm hoping to have my reviews being regular again by April at the latest. And for those who watch me, for the 27 subscribers I have as of making this review, thank you for watching me, and And some people have taken the time to comment, and I still haven't made a big enough splash, I guess, in the world of YouTube movie reviews, but who knows? Maybe I'll get somewhere next year. Maybe it'll grow. We'll see. And I'm looking forward to Jesus Bro, Brad Jones's movie that I helped fund. It's hard to know what to say for your final review this year, and I feel good in this moment. I don't know what else to say. See you next year, my movie niggas and my film fags.